New Jersey happened to be the last northern state to abolish slavery. The New Jersey Training School for Boys was opened in 1867. That's 2 years after emancipation, after slaves were free. And they put a process in place called gradual emancipation, which meant that children who were born by slave mothers had to work as indentured slaves until they were young adults.
In Kansas, we're also the state of Brown v. Board of Education. To be able to go just a few miles from the Brown v. Board of Education school building to the Kansas Juvenile Correctional Complex, our one remaining youth prison, and walking in and seeing the racial disparities in that facility. Again, it's just difficult to walk away from that and not feel like we have a special responsibility to fix this and fix this quickly.
Our youth prisons were created at a time when human bondage was legal, a time when whites were willing to see blacks as less than human. Young people will come into these facilities in leg irons and shackles. There's been incidents of correctional officers actually hog tying. Some facilities use something called a restraint chair. You know, everything that they do, they're being watched and they're being controlled, and they're being deprived of their own agency and their own worth.
When you look at some of the communities that are the highest committing to the juvenile justice system, they're impoverished communities. They are communities that are struggling economically. The school systems are failing, and there is a lack of hope and opportunity in those communities. And it is just a reflection of the way blacks were treated when they were first brought to this country on slave ships.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Johnson. My co-host, Cornell, is an author. Can you hear me, Angela? Okay. I guess they can hear me now. So joining us this evening will be Shamiria Osborne. She is an author. Her and her husband started a nonprofit, From Prison to Power. We want to talk about that. Um, Angela, can you bring Shamiria up, because she has so much? Um, I would like for her to introduce herself.
You can hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hey.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. Give us a little brief description. You sent me your bio, and I was just so amazed at everything that you do, especially the Power to Prison ministry that you and your husband have. Just give the audience a little background of about who is Shamiria.
Well, I could say I'm a mother of three with 3 kids. 3 kids and 2 grandbabies. I could say Shaniria has been a long journey. I'm just Shaniria. I'm just who God want me to be. Me and my husband have, we came a long way when he already had a program started with the youth. So we joined together as, to start a big thing of the youth. Because I have a son that's troubled teen. That was a troubled teen, and also a nephew. So, uh, y'all gotta excuse me. I'm kind of tired of it, but I'm just a person that I'm just a person that want to help the community. A type of person that want to reach, a lot of youth in the community, and just give back to what I seen as a mother of raising a teenager boy, troubled teen. So I was just always the type of mom who um, will step out there and try to do a lot of different things to help the community, to help the kids. I'm tired, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
know you is. Shamiria been up probably before 5 because we have 5 a.m. prayers, and she's one of the ladies that be praying in the morning at 5 a.m. So we're not going to hold her long. We're just going to talk briefly. Cornell, do you have any thing for Samaria?
Well, I would like to say thank you, ma'am, for coming on the show, ma'am, and for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate you very much for being an advocate for the criminal justice reform and the youth who need, a voice. And my name is Cornell Drummer, and I'm an incarcerated Texas citizen inmate of 34 years. I'm a founder of the Free Texas Campaign. The Free Texas Campaign is basically a platform to seek nothing but the truth, justice, and accountability. And with that, I appreciate you for having me on your show. Let's talk about it. And that tonight's episode will be what's wrong with our United States criminal justice system. And we are focusing on the youth programs, man.
Thank you, Cornell. Yes, for the last 2 weeks, me and Cornell been talking about the juvenile system. Tonight, I want to talk about the Law Party, Texas Law Party, and I also want to talk about the second look. With the Law Party, the juveniles, if you commit a crime in Texas, if someone kills someone and you didn't, you're going to get charged with the same crime and you're going to get the same sentence. Am I correct, Cornell? Am I sort of correct
Yes,
on that?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are very correct, ma'am.
And so I believe that they're trying to get an amendment where the person that actually does the commit the crime, that actually does it, and the person that doesn't, they want to separate the two. So one will get the harshest sentence, and the other one doesn't get the harshest sentence. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. You are correct with that, ma'am. And yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tell me what they're basically doing over there, Cordell, with the Law Party Acts, and then we're going to have if Shamiria would like to touch a little on her son case, or let us know exactly what she's been doing on behalf of her son. I know we spoke on yesterday, and you said that you I'm probably jumping a little ahead of myself, but I know you're tired, so I don't want to hold you long. You said that that you was out there protesting on behalf of your son because of the sentence that he was given. The sentence that you told me, I know it was really unjust for him for that. So I would like for you to go ahead and share, and then Cornell, you can jump in and also comment.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, Samaria.
Okay. At the time when the incident happened, they called it an armed robbery because they stated that my nephew and my son um, uh, was at this school or somewhere behind a school, and they pulled a gun out on another teenager and wanted his book bag. And they end up getting the book bag, getting in the car, Police end up pulling them over that day. They end up pulling them over with the book bag in the car. So when it, just going past that part, when they got to court, my son decided not to take it. He didn't want to take the plea deal because at the time he said that he didn't pull the gun out on the young guy. And they went to court. They did all that. The young guy came to court, and he stated that my son wasn't the one who pulled the gun on him. It was my nephew at the time. But for some reason, by my son taking it to trial, when he took it to trial, my nephew ended up taking the plea deal. But my son ended up taking it to trial. And when my son took it to trial, he lost. And they ended up giving my son 25 years for armed robbery. At the time, when all that incident happened, I got with some other people that we went to the news with it. We protested at the courthouse. I had almost about 5 other women that got behind me, that also had teenager boys that had other kids in the neighborhood, or their kids end up getting prison time under the same judge at the time. Some of them got 47 years, just standing there with their hands in their pocket. Didn't kill nobody, but it's the same judge that was bamming a lot of these young youth, and I can say a lot of these young black boys, because that's what they're doing. Um, yeah, I went out. I protest. I even protested in Atlanta, trying to help my son so he can get more light on of them giving these young boys like too much time for something that they didn't kill. They didn't kill the young guy. They didn't touch him, hurt him. But I understand about them just even being around that and doing something like that. I can understand them getting punished for it, but the time that they gave my nephew and my son was just too much of time. They ended up giving my nephew, he took the plea deal for 15 years. But like I say, my son took it to trial, and they ended up giving him 5 years, I guess, for taking it to trial. But we are still trying to fight my son's case. My nephew get ready to get out. His time is up. So next year my nephew will be getting released from prison. But my son have to serve all his 25 years. So we fighting that. We still fighting that now, with my son, uh, with the 25 years. And it's kind of, I'm not saying it's kind of hard, but a lot of lawyers now, they want at least $30,000 to even, uh, to really take his case back to court. So it's really tough. It's really tough. And like I tell a lot of youth, even when I go to the YDCs and talk with the youth, it's so easy to get in trouble, but it's hard to get out of it. And this is something I told my son, when he was hanging with the wrong crowd, that it's fun and game now that you out there, whatever y'all doing. But when you get in trouble, it's gonna be hard to get out of it. Now my son looking at that and say, "Mama, you was right." And this is the one. It's so hard for my son at this point. But my nephew get ready to get released, and he probably gonna get released this year before December. So I'm just still fighting for my son, and I mean, that's all I can do. Is put it in God's hands to show me what I can do to take it to another level with him.
Cornell, do you have anything? Well, I guess he didn't they cut the phone. Well, while I was sitting here and I'm just listening to what you said, a lot of people will say that it's not racial, but this is my personal opinion, and it's a lot of people that feel the same way. It is. It is racial. Would someone else would have got that same sentence as your son, as your nephew? I think not. I really think not. You
Nah.
know, when you said it's the same judge and that he was handed down sentence of 47 years to boys that's just standing around with their hands in their pocket. It took me back to when I talked to this young man from California named Kevin Thornton. Kevin Thornton, as you guys may remember, was a youth, and it wasn't no homicide tied in his case or anything. He was actually with two older guys when this happened, and he went before the judge in juvenile court, and the judge transferred him to adult court. So on Kevin's first day at adult court, who's sitting behind the bench? The same judge that transferred his case from juvenile court to adult court is now going to preside over the case as in adult court. Um, in the end, Kevin was sentenced to, I believe, 48 years plus double life. That was his sentence as a juvenile. This Thursday, Kevin is going before California Parole Board to see if he can make parole. And I just look at the injustice that our men are facing, you know, and I'm trying to pinpoint, like, I did my research, um and I seen the injustice where people talked about how that is laws there, that the white people, Caucasians have their laws, the blacks have their laws. It's two different laws, and it's not coming from um people of colors. It's coming out of um it's coming out of their mouths. They're telling us that is two sets of
Now,
laws. You had the black laws and you had the white laws, and I don't think that's fair. For our men to be sentenced like that. We can even take it as go as back as slavery. Cornell, are you back with us?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, yes, ma'am. Again, ma'am, it's evidence that African Americans are being convicted out of race higher than any other nationality in the United States. But the point now is this, that our criminal justice system is designed for this purpose. So here's the thing with her situation dealing with her nephew. He was charged under which you have just identified as a law party. He did not pull a gun on anybody, nor did he take anything from anybody. He was just a party to the offense that was charged. And with that being said, because his cousin is the one who actually pulled the gun, because he refused to plead guilty to a lesser included offense, he too was convicted by a jury, which is classified as retaliation for his failure to plead guilty to a crime that he did not commit, only being a party to a crime that was committed. So the jury gave him 25 years as a result of his refusal to plead guilty and his right to exercise the rights available to him to plead not guilty to a crime he did not commit. So now, being the fact that he got 25 years under the law party in the state of Texas as identified, and other states are basically calling him accessory to the fact, or to the fact. He is being sentenced for something classified as, like I say, the law party. And his sentence is disproportionate to really the offense charge, because he's been convicted for nothing but a misdemeanor, really, or anything less than the aggravated robbery that they gave him the time for.
So what will be what state was he in, Shamaria?
That was in Georgia. It happened in Georgia.
So what do you know the time frame or the sentencing guideline for that?
I did look it up. Armed robbery, the judge and the DAs they could give time less, or they can give you a max of 25 years, for armed robbery. And that was my son's first offense. So they didn't even look at it. Okay, by him, that's his first offense. We would give him less charge of that crime. They gave him the max, and the max was 25 years for armed robbery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I jump in on that now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the punishment range, what she was speaking about is the punishment range, right? So in the state of Georgia, they have what they classify as 2 to 5 or 2 to 12 or a 5 to 15, stuff like that, right? These are plea offers. These are guidelines that the state can offer you according to the punishment authorized by law. Here in Texas, any felony we get is 5.99 to life. Okay, over there where you at, it has to be a set guideline of punishment range. Now, because he refused to take the plea of guilty, they gave him the max, which is, like you say, for the armed robbery, 25 years. Okay? In that case, because nobody actually got shot or hurt or killed or anything like that, in that situation, it's 25 years. But had it been someone got hurt or killed or something like that, it would have been a capital offense. Now let me ask you a question. How old was this individual that, actually got sentenced to 25 years at the time of the commission of the offense?
But this was his first offense.
This was the first
He
offense.
had he had nothing. This was the first time he ever got in trouble.
With the first offender act, they used that for the gun. They used that for the gun that was involved, but they couldn't use it for the armed robbery. If the judge would have did the armed robbery lesser than armed robbery, something else, death by taking, then they could have used the first offense act, but they couldn't use it for the armed robbery. They only used it for the gun charge. So they was charged. Both of them was charged with gun, possession of the gun, and armed robbery for taking the backpack. And I also, I even stand up and ask the judge, like, why would y'all go to the max of giving him 25 years of a first charge and nobody got killed, and it was on a backpack when nothing in the backpack was a BB gun, a bottle of liquor, and I believe only $40 that was inside the book bag. Now, since my son been gone now about 7 years. So my son, I think what he really was doing is trying to fight the case on his own. So he was going back doing habeas court, and he kept putting in habeas court, but at the same time, they was having him in a mental valuation. So a lot of times when he was trying to do the habeas court, the stuff would come back, then the judge then would deny everything. So he did all the habeas court that he can do. Like he basically did all that. So now we got to take it to another level of getting a big time lawyer to try to fight this case for him. Now at this point, by him being in prison, they end up diagnosing him with schizophrenia. So now he's in, they call it a medical state prison. And it took me to actually go to the prison. It took me to go to the prison to find out that something was going on with my son. And nobody noticed, nobody in the prison didn't notice anything was going on. So when I went there, that's when the warden and everybody, I mean, they were blowing my phone up. I never thought that a warden would call me at 9 o'clock at night about my son. But the warden was apologizing, saying that they didn't know my son was in a state of mind like that. So they ended up sending him to a medical prison where he had like 4 different doctors had to evaluate him to make sure that's what they saying that he had, and they ended up saying that he had schizophrenia. So now I'm fighting two different things now. Fighting to make sure he, they don't mistreat him because of his medical condition, and also trying to fight at the same time to, you know, get his time cut, at least get it cut, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to release him like that, but just to try to, get his time cut, lesser than 25 years. Now, I did talk to my,
How
huh?
it was a question that came up. Someone wanted to know how old was your baby at the time of this
At the
at the
time,
time of this.
my son was 17. My son was 17, and my sister son was 14. 14, yeah, he was 14. And they waited with my sister's son, waited YDC until he was 17. And that's when they gave him adult charges. They waited till he turned 17 to give him 15 years in prison. So he went from YDC straight to prison. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Cornell want to jump in. Go ahead, Cornell.
Right, yes, ma'am. You just raised some very serious issues just right now. Okay. First of all, you saying that your son was not even mentally competent to even stand trial as an adult.
No.
You saying that your son is mentally incompetent to even be in prison under the circumstance of the law parties. And not only that, they did not give him a psychological evaluation, nor did you go testify, nor did you present any evidence of mitigating factors on his behalf. And not only that, he could have gotten probation. Why? Because he's never committed a crime. And
Yeah.
because of this, ma'am, all of these things being denied you, you have a right now to go back and have your son's case reevaluated it based upon the fact that he's mentally incompetent. You
Yeah.
can't plead guilty because you don't know what he's doing. So
Yeah.
can he make the decision to go to the jury trial, ma'am? So
He-
therefore, his attorneys are ineffective because of the fact that his attorneys never even contacted you to even question you about his mental capacity.
yeah.
So with that being said, ma'am, what you should do is have someone to go back and take yourself to that courthouse and tell them people in that courthouse that you want your son to have a psychological evaluation. Not only that, medical reports, ma'am. And that based on that, you want your son to be given a new trial right now and to be placed into a mental capacity hospital under his condition right now. And they will have to acknowledge that. Why? Because the court's never done no evaluation on him before he went to court. And that's
Yeah.
something they have to do.
Yeah, he was,
That's
well,
mandatory, man.
I brought that up in court. He was already had mental issues before he went to prison. And I brought it up to the DA. I brought it up to the judge. The DA told me if he can read and write, they didn't use that against him. They say if he can read and write, they've never used it against him. Now, one lawyer told me before he went to court, they told me if my son would have got back on medication or went and seen a doctor, that his case can be closed. But my son refused it. So then here we are.
Ma'am,
He refused
I
it.
understand exactly what they're saying. They're only saying it because they're advocates, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that your son should have been evaluated before he even stepped into a courthouse. Period.
Yep.
And his lawyer should have raised this issue as well. It's thought that you should have been brought up to testify on behalf of your son, showing that he's mentally incompetent. And that he would have had doctors to testify on his behalf that he's not competent to stand trial or plead guilty. So that should have been done. So the district attorney, the judge cannot say you still should not have been given a psychological evaluation before trial. As of right now, what you can do is you can petition right now for your son to be given a new trial based upon mentally incompetence. And you got doctors right there that evaluate him that's going to support your claim. So all you have to do is file a motion for a new trial based upon psychological evaluation based upon his condition. And they would have to honor that.
Could I jump in right quick? Because you said, Cornell, you said that she can go and she can petition the court right now. Is the court
Yes, ma'am.
going to give her an appointed someone to represent him, or do she have to come out? Do she have to pay for legal representation?
Okay, ma'am. She can make a request. Okay, the court would have to appoint her attorney anyway. Why? Because he has to be represented by an attorney. And the attorney would have to file a motion with the court requesting for a new trial based upon his behalf for psychological evaluation. Why? Because he was deprived of this right prior to trial. And that his attorney was ineffective because his attorney never brought this information to the court's attention. But she brought it to the court's attention. So because she did bring it to the district attorney's attention and the judge's attention, it was their mandatory duty to make a request for him to be given a psychological evaluation. So because they didn't do that, ma'am, right now, she can make a request for him to be given that new trial based upon them facts right there.
So Cornell, are you
But you don't
willing?
have to pay no money.
Are you willing to assist Samaria?
Yes, ma'am, I'll do it. I will do it for her. Yes. Ma'am, that's the truth, ma'am. They got to give you your son's psychological evaluation because he's mentally incompetent. He can't plead guilty, nor can he make a decision to go to trial. And it's evident now that he was denied the right to effective assistance of counsel. Why? Because his attorney did not seek a psychological evaluation on his behalf. So with that being said, ma'am, your son is basically to get a new trial right now. So I would get with Miss Jeanette, and we would, get that information to you, ma'am, on how this is basically done. It's practically easy, man. It's easy. I will send you an application. All you have to do is take it to the court and file it. That's all you have to do. That's it. All she would need is the information on the case number, and basically that's it. The courtroom and the courthouse. That's it. Everything else will be automatically done. Because the doctors who evaluate him right now, they would have to make a statement right now showing that he's mentally incompetent. And because of that, he was mentally incompetent back then.
He was. I even sent over all his documents before because my son ended up joining the military, but at the time he only got a chance to do basic training. But I got him in the military because I knew that would help him with his behaviors and stuff like that. But even when I addressed it with 4 different lawyers, they was like they didn't want no parts of it. They told me, now I did have one lawyer said she would take the case, but it was like $30,000, almost $40,000 to take my son's case. Couple more people. I even called lawyers that deal with people with mental illness and all that, and all of them, I guess they went and read my son's case. They didn't want no parts of it. That was strange to me. I don't know because of the judge.
Ma'am.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
ma'am,
it's only thing I constantly see is dollar signs. That's the only thing I see is dollar signs.
Yeah.
And with the juveniles, with the adults, everything stems back to money.
Yeah.
Everything stems back to money. And to me, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I know my pastor told me that he can get in the chamber.
Go ahead.
He can go talk to the judge who actually sentenced my son. But the thing is, he told me off rip, if you ain't got no lawyer, if you ain't spending no money, that's the first thing the judge gonna ask me when I go in there and talk to him. He said, so you want to make sure that you getting a lawyer, even if you got someone going and doing what they call it when you go check on somebody, what they call it, I can't think of it. Actually, someone that just go, I forgot what they call it. I forgot it. But actually, someone to go check on him in prison, which is a lawyer.
Mediator.
Yeah.
Okay.
A mediator. Okay.
I see. I see something coming up Let's cut to a break real quick. Angela, can you play that the video?
When you walk into a facility, all that you see is a sea of black and brown bodies.
Racial injustice is evident, within these youth prisons.
It's mostly African American males. It's obvious.
It's hard to try to argue that it's not a racial justice issue.
You see these two white staff all of a sudden just rushing into the room, all of us just standing there and watching, my friend who was African American, being beat down by the staff. I'm like, why'd you go and do that? And he's like, what do you care? He's like, at the end of the day, kid, you're only here to pay my paycheck. In that moment, I realized I was just seen as a dollar sign to this man.
I would define structural racism as a hierarchical inequity that is characterized by white supremacy.
If you have any questions about what structural racism looks like, I encourage you to walk into a juvenile prison in America, talk to the black kids who are in those facilities and ask them what their experience has been in the juvenile justice system.
When the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, it actually kept an exception for people who were convicted of a criminal offense. And so the criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system became the new vehicle for controlling the lives of people of color.
After the Civil War ended and we saw this influx of African Americans exercising what they deemed as their freedom, immediately we saw institutions go up, these youth prisons be built to house young black African American males.
Post-Emancipation Proclamation, unfortunately as a whole, as a country, we thought it was our opportunity to do away with racism. We thought that we'd gotten past that particular issue. And through sharecropping, through Jim Crow, through segregation, the drug epidemic, we find that, society, especially here in the U.S., we just reinvent that issue.
It's almost like it was meant to be. Like at no point in our history would black males be completely free.
So Virginia is indeed the heart of the Confederacy. You can walk down on the James River and stand in the very place where black lives were bought and sold. You can walk the slave trails.
Some states highlight the fact that their institutions have been around for hundreds of years. And that's certainly like a slap in the face for our brown and black allies. And I think it's disgusting that a state would highlight the fact that their institution has been around so long on the heels of the end of slavery.
The Beaumont facility was built in 1890. And when they began incarcerating young people there, those young people had to work the land, much like slaves.
New Jersey happened to be the last northern state to abolish slavery. The New Jersey Training School for Boys was opened in 1867. That's 2 years after emancipation, after slaves were free. And they put a process in place called gradual emancipation, which meant that children who were born by slave mothers had to work as indentured slaves until they were young adults.
In Kansas, we're also the state of Brown versus Board of Education. To be able to go just a few miles from the Brown versus Board of Education school building to the Kansas Juvenile Correctional Complex, our one remaining youth prison, and walking in and seeing the racial disparities in that facility. Again, it's just difficult to walk away from that and not feel like we have a special responsibility to fix this and fix this quickly.
Our youth prisons were created at a time when human bondage was legal, a time when whites were willing to see blacks as less than human. Young people will come into these facilities in leg irons and shackles. There's been incidents of correctional officers actually hog tying. Some facilities use something called a restraint chair You know, everything that they do, they're being watched and they're being controlled, and they're being deprived of their own agency and their own worth.
When you look at some of the communities that are the highest committing to the juvenile justice system, they're impoverished communities. They are communities that are struggling economically. The school systems are failing, and there is a lack of hope and opportunity in those communities. And it is just a reflection of the way blacks were treated when they were first brought to this country on slave ships.
That breaks my heart.
Yes, ma'am. Is missionary still here? You want it, ma'am?
Yes, I hear you.
Missionary.
Uh-huh.
Hello, ma'am?
I'm here.
She can hear you.
Okay, ma'am. What you do for yourself now right now is do your own investigation. Your own investigation, first of all, is get all the psychological reports that you can from the doctors, from the facility that he's at, interviewing him right now. Okay? And not only that, see if you can get his previous history before he even went to the jailhouse, to the prison, to jail on the case that he got. With that information now, you then turn around and make an affidavit saying that you told his attorney, you told the judge, and you told the district attorney about his mental capacity before he went to court. Okay? And that they did not give him a psychological evaluation. You make an affidavit and you have it notarized, ma'am. That would be your evidence right now, ma'am, to get your son a new file right now. Now, even though he has already filed 1107, collateral attack on his conviction, ma'am, this process right now is classified as newly discovered information and evidence. Why? Because it has not been used. Now, the district attorney has tried to come back and say, well, she mentioned it to me, we didn't see enough evidence to warrant that he was psychologically mentally disturbed. Well, that's not for them to make that determination. It's a doctor at the county jail has to make that determination before he even goes to court. And that doctor has to present a report, just like a juvenile certification report, to the judge, and the judge makes that determination whether or not he believes that your son was mentally competent to stand trial or plead guilty. So that's what you would have to do as of right now, ma'am. As far as the information on how to do that stuff, ma'am, Mrs. Shanette will be getting that information to you as soon as possible, ma'am, okay? And no, ma'am, you do not have to hire an attorney, ma'am, because it's basically something to do like a hand in a glove, ma'am. So, you know, if you want to, you can make a request for the appointment of an attorney. But if that attorney, too, thought to not do his job, you will already have it already made. So that way, all you would have to do is file it yourself. Okay?
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're here for you, Shamiria, and we're gonna get this did because you know we see the injustice in this. Just looking at that that film that we just showed, it does something to you to see how our young black men are what they face inside the juvenile system and also the prison. You know, we haven't even looked at the girls, see how the young ladies are, how they handling it in juvenile hall and are in the women's prisons. You know, we haven't even got over there. So, you know, my heart is heavy.
Okay. Well, ma'am, what we're going to do, ma'am, we're going to go ahead and address the juvenile system as a whole. Okay, now I don't know if I have enough time right now, but we will start now addressing our juvenile system as a whole. And if she have anything that she want to present to us, ma'am, we can go ahead and listen to that, see what else she would have to present to us. Mrs. Shanette.
Well, you know, we got a few minutes, and I know Samiria is tired because she got to get up early in the morning, and she's 3 hours ahead of us. So Samaria, is there any last words that you want to say? Anything that you would like to say?
Um, yeah, that touched me. That really, just to even watch that. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. It was. It's okay. It was hard for me to watch it, but I want to bring awareness. This is what our platform is for. There's no racial um intentions. I want to let parents know what's going on in our juvenile system. I have 4 children. My son was he went to juvenile hall, he went to prison. I have a daughter. My 2 years was free, you know, but I pray for my children. And my son, he transitioned last year, but my daughter, oh my God, she did a totally 360. She started speaking on reforming the juvenile system. She would travel to different states and she would speak out. You know, we need people like that to get behind us so we can make change. Don't talk about it, be about it. If we come together, if we all talking the same talk, if we all want to advocate for the same thing, if we come together, just think what we can do if we all come together. But right now we all separate. So we're not really making a big impact on the justice system. But if we come together, we can kick down some doors. We can make our voices will be heard. But we have to come together. We got to start being okay. We got to start being
The caller has hung up.
little Indians. Everybody want to be a chief, but we need some people that's gonna be behind the chief. Everybody can't be a chief all the time. Look what's happening to our young black and brown men. How do we keep them from going in there? If you look in our neighborhoods, there's a liquor store on every corner. Now all of a sudden, California done legalized marijuana. So now we got dispensaries all over the place. You can be driving down the street and that's all you smell because the dispensary is right there. And that's in our communities. Now let's go into their communities. Do we see liquor stores on every corner? No. Do we see a lot of dispensaries? If it is, they may be hidden or up under different names. How come it's only in our community? How come? Are we that? I mean, do we want more for our children, or we just want them just to fall by the wayside? Because I want more for them. My kids are grown. My son is not here, so my fight is for my 4 grandchildren, my 4 grandsons that's still here, my cousins, even people I don't know. My fight is for your children. We have to come together. We got to stand with shoulder to shoulder with moms like Shamiria and other mothers. We got to let them know that we're not playing about our children. A lot of people, oh, I don't play about my children. Then let's get together. If you don't play, let's all get together and make our voices heard. Playtime is over, people. Playtime is over. We're getting ready to go. We're getting ready to vote a new president in next week. Whether it be we get a first woman or we get the person we had before. Make your voice heard. When the judges is up for election, I think some of the judges is up. Don't go in there just marking it down because they're a Democrat or whatever. You do your research on that judge and see how tough they are on the juveniles and where they stand. The DA, you do your research on all of them. Just don't listen to your friend or your grandmother. Oh, we're gonna just vote. We've been voting Republican or Democrat. That's what the family's been voting all these years, and we're gonna stick with it. No, go do your research. See where these people stand with these laws on the justice system. See what they stand. Because this is, and I'm just going to say this because this is in my spirit. Hell, if Donald Trump can say stuff, I can say stuff. I can say something too. The Klansmen ain't gone. Some of them are sitting on the benches. You people, you better wake up and you better look at them judges that's sitting on them benches. You got judges that will follow one child to adult court and give them 48 to double life, and it's not a homicide connected to it. When are we going to wake up? Cornell, you back?
Well, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, it's obvious, ma'am, that we have what we classify as judicial impartiality within our criminal justice system. We have judges, ma'am, connected to district attorneys and district attorneys connected to lawyers because they have what they classify as a judge donation campaign. These individuals donate to these judges' campaigns, ma'am. So therefore, these judges are assigning these individual juveniles and defendant attorneys who they know will help them secure conviction. So with that being said, ma'am, we have a dysfunctional criminal justice system here in the United States, ma'am. And with that being said, ma'am, I was speaking basically about the juvenile system. The juvenile system, ma'am, is basically a system where here it is, a juvenile child is charged with a crime, a capital offense. And under the circumstances, when they are questioned by a criminal detective, they are lacking the parents, they're lacking an attorney to advise them of their rights not to remain silent. And because these kids are not given the tools available to them to remain silent, to be advised to remain silent, these detectives are taking advantage of these kids. So what these kids are doing, some of them are admitting to participating in a criminal offense, not knowing that they're going to get a capital life sentence, and these kids are being railroaded by these doctors who are being used by the county jails and the judges to certify these kids as adults to stand trial as adults. So with that being said, ma'am, here it is in our criminal justice system. A doctor is supposed to make a determination whether or not an individual child is competent enough and has the mental capacity to commit a crime. And to know that the crime committed is a right or wrong crime. But a juvenile don't have the capacity to make that rationale. Why? Because their mind is not fully developed. And a lot of these kids are being taken advantage of. Why? Because we have adults encouraging these kids to commit a crime. Or these kids are being encouraged to commit crimes in games, man. So with that being said, a psychological evaluation, a doctor is certifying this kid to say, yes, he's mentally competent enough to stand trial as an adult. But he fails to realize that the information that's needed to make that determination is not in the record. Some of these kids have mental issues. Some of these kids are being influenced by adults to commit the crime. Some of these kids do not fully understand right from wrong. So with that information not being in the files, ma'am, the records are incomplete. But the judges are still certifying these kids to stand trial as adults. So when they get to the district court, they flip the whole program around and turn it into a law party in some cases, or if not most cases. So when the kids get to the district court now, the district attorney's office is going to present evidence of the law parties. So now the lawyer is encouraging these kids to plead guilty to capital life sentences under the impression that if you don't plead guilty, you will get the death penalty. But the kids don't realize that they plead guilty under a law party with a culpable mental state not being presented. Because if I commit the crime and you didn't commit the crime, ma'am, there is no way that a court can take you to court first and then take me to court second. Why? Because there's no culpable mental state established to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you committed the crime. Therefore, the courts are allowing these kids to plead guilty and to go to trial and get convicted for capital life sentences now without culpable mental state, which is the Eighth Amendment violation. And has been a proven fact that kids are not mentally competent and that their minds is not fully developed. So now in the United States, now we have all these juveniles sitting in these facilities, ma'am, who have not been given the benefit of being properly psychologically evaluated. So now that's a violation of the Eighth Amendment. So that's where we at right now. Now, most of these cases are from plead guilty and the Texas law part. Well, the next law part is not just Texas, but in the United States, man. So with that being said, man, we need to, like you say, vote and petition our lawmakers to change the laws and to recognize the differences in principle and party liability. If a juvenile did not pull the trigger, or if a juvenile is just sitting on the sideline, he should not receive a capital life sentence as the trigger person did. And they need to make sure that these kids are actually given a proper psychological evaluation. And that they can confront the psychologist who did the evaluation. So that's where we at right there with that, man.
Okay. So we got 4 minutes left. I said my little spiel, and I know Shamiria is tired, and Cordell, I'm gonna let you close out the this show this evening. First, let me just say thank you, Shamiria, for coming on this evening with us. And like I said, we're gonna be there. I'm gonna get the information from Cornell, and I will get it over to you as soon as possible. And I'm with you. I'm in this fight with you because 25 years, that's too long. That's too long, and it's not connect. That's what they giving people for homicides is 25 years. Sometimes they only getting 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's crazy. You know. So Cornell, thank you again, Shamaria, for joining us this evening. Cornell,
Why, yes, ma'am. Well,
you can close it out.
thank you, people. Okay, well, thank you for listening in, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Nerdy, for coming on. And thank y'all for listening in to this show. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about the show is nothing but the truth. We seek nothing but the truth. Justice and accountability, ma'am. So with that being said, we're here to address issues of anyone's case or anyone's situation. And not only that, we're here to encourage people to stand up and have your voices heard, to come out and go and vote. Think of your state representatives, your senators and legislators and lawmakers, and access these judges who are committing these violations against our kids. It's not a racial thing. This is a United States judicial process that's out of control. We have a broken criminal justice system. And we need to figure out how to fix it. But if we don't say anything, how can we fix something that we're not speaking about? So with that being said, man, like I said, I appreciate y'all for coming on. I appreciate y'all for listening in. And the best thing we can do is to stand up and address these issues that's affecting and effecting our criminal justice system. And with that, man, I want to say thank y'all. And tune in next time. Let's talk about it. And thank you very much for having me on. And thank you for allowing us to make the topic.
And on that note, guys have a good and don't forget, Cornell, to drink their water,
Drink
right?
your water. And mind your own business. Stay in your lane and mind your own business. Yes, ma'am.
Have a good evening.
Mhm.